Healthy humans, hello, welcome back to my channel. Happy 2020. Have we done a video yet? In 2020, I can't remember. No, we did a full day of eating, so never mind. We've covered the New Year's department. But welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Kara. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner and NLP master practitioner, and I make videos about, you know, how to live a healthier life, and of course me navigating my life trying to live a healthier life. So you're kind of like living vicariously through me, I guess. First of all, thank you guys so much for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. There's 1,000 of you beautiful, healthy humans out there that decided to spare your time on the internet to watch me, so I feel forever blessed. And I know 1,000 is just a little number in the grand scheme of things, but who cares? Like 1,000 is 1,000, that's rad. And if you have not subscribed, please be sure that you do go ahead and subscribe so you can become a healthy human, of course. So as you guessed from the title of today's video, we are reacting to every single diet that I've ever done. And honey, we have notes. Simply because my quote-unquote dieting journey, my health journey, started when I was 19 and when I dropped out of college back in 2014 because I had really severe digestive issues. Basically, my stomach decided to explode on me one day in college, not literally, but one day I just woke up. I had extreme gastrointestinal issues. I couldn't eat, I couldn't keep food down, and this persisted for months until I lost a lot of weight, became very sick, could not take care of myself, and was scared for my life. So I moved back home, and that is what propelled me along my health journey, my spiritual journey, my mindset journey, just like this whole journey called life. So yeah, since that day of being sick, I have been like a serious chronic dieter. Some, as you will hear, because I truthfully wanted to seek better health and I wanted to get rid of some symptoms. Some because I wanted to lose weight. When you put those two insecurities together of being sick and wanting to lose weight, you basically just, it's bad news bears. You become a chronic dieter, AKA like me. I've done everything from paleo to keto to vegan to carnivore to medical medium to counting macros, and those are basically the ones that we're going to talk about in today's video. I'm doing this because now looking back on my life and the choices that I've made, hopefully this will reach some other people who may fall into this category of chronic dieting, aka you're always searching for the next best thing, the next best diet, the next best eating style that's gonna help you lose the last 10 pounds or save you from your symptoms or finally heal you. I thought this for literally the past 7 years of my life, and some of these things were really instrumental in my healing process along the way, and I want to be able to highlight what those specific diets were, and I also want to talk about why a lot of these diets didn't work for me. And it wasn't really, as you'll find out, the diet itself, it was really my mentality going into all of these diets, and that's going to be a big part of this because I'm all for experimentation, and I believe that if you're on a health journey, you're gonna have to experiment, and you probably should try different styles of eating to see how you feel so you can know what feels good for your body. However, if you're coming at this from a standpoint of looking for something that's going to fix you, that can be trouble, it can be murky waters, and I went through a lot of that. So we're gonna go through every single diet that I've ever done. If I have pictures, I will throw them up on the screen of the foods that I ate and all of that. But first, let's get into some disclaimers. Although I am a nutritional therapy practitioner, I'm not your nutritional therapy practitioner. Personally, I'm just one out here on the internet, and I'm not telling you that you should or shouldn't do any of these styles of eating. If you are curious about any of these styles of eating, then I really recommend looking into and researching these for yourself. And I'm not going to be going into detail with what each diet is specifically. I'm going to give a brief overview and how I got into it, but I'm not going to be like going in depth, so please be sure to do your own research at your own discretion. Okay, so I first got into calorie counting before my whole health fiasco in 2014. This is actually how I got introduced to dieting and the world of health. I found calorie counting in my junior/senior year of high school because I had this desire to lose weight. I was always called the thick girl in high school because your girl's got a booty, but it's fine. I love it now. We're doing okay. And looking back on pictures of me from high school, like I really wasn't that thick. Like I really wasn't. I don't know why people called me that, but I had this desire early on in my teenage years to lose weight. So what do? You Google, how do you lose weight? And you find calories. But for some reason back then the magic number was like 1,200 calories. So I got on MyFitnessPal. I started to track my calories. Let's just talk about this here because this is really where my obsession with seeing food as a number started. And I thought that it was just very harmless in the beginning. I thought that I was just getting to know food and I was just preventing like overeating. This was the start of like my health journey. And really this was the start of me like utterly obsessing about food and about calories and about how my body looked. Now I'm not blaming it on the calorie counting. It really all starts from your own insecurities, and then these things like calorie counting and diets just play off of your insecurities. But I just wanted to let you know that that is how I got into this whole world. I didn't count macros. I didn't really care about ingredients. I was eating 100 calorie pack type foods in high school. I just wanted to hit my 1,200 calorie limit and call it a freaking day. Not to mention, looking back on it now as a nutritionist, like no one should be eating as little as 1,200 calories a day. Literally no one, not even like a 6-year-old, especially a growing woman who had previously, you know, just went through puberty. What was that word?
Puberty.
But that was my experience with calorie counting. And if you're a young girl, young woman watching this, I don't necessarily think calorie counting is the best gateway into leading a healthier lifestyle. I think instead of calorie counting, look at the nutrition labels when you're at the store, meaning the ingredients. Like, do you recognize all of the things that are in your food, and start caring more about food quality over your food calories. Calories can come into play later on in life. Like right now, I'm counting calories probably once a month to make sure that I'm actually eating enough. Because of this, calorie counting so young, I definitely would say that I was a chronic undereater. I developed those habits. So I always want to make sure that I'm eating enough for my body and getting enough nutrition now. Okay, so that was like I wanted to say pre-apocalypse, but my pre-health apocalypse, but it was pre my stomach exploding in college. Fast forward to that whole shebang. When I moved back home from college, I was dedicated to getting healthy. I was so sick and malnourished, and I felt so terrible that was like the turning point for me in my life. And I thought, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to feel better, because I genuinely, like, why do I laugh about this? It's not funny, but I genuinely thought that I could die, or like I could get cancer of my stomach, or something bad could really happen to me. So this was when I started to look at food as more medicine and fuel for my body. I would just research like days on end how to help my stomach, and I found a blog of this woman who helped heal or support the healing process of her ulcerative colitis through doing a paleo diet. And that takes us to diet number 2, which is the paleo diet. The paleo diet hit its like peak popularity, I would say, in 2016. I feel like everyone and their mom was doing the paleo diet, and it's still pretty popular. But this was 2014, and there was probably no blogs, no cookbooks, like no nothing. There were like 2 people on the internet doing paleo, and luckily for me, I found one of those 2 people. I could barely eat anything at this stage in my life. I was eating like baked white potatoes and Amy's lentil soup because that's all my stomach could tolerate, and I was just drinking ginger ale to try and calm the nausea all day. So I saw this lady's blog and I thought, I'm desperate, I will do whatever it takes. I'm going to give paleo a shot. And if you're not familiar with the paleo diet, it's based on the Paleolithic diet, aka the ways that our hunters and gatherer ancestors would have ate. But really looking back on it, that's pretty ridiculous, because all of our vegetables are like completely genetically modified. If you looked back on like a Paleolithic vegetable or fruit that people were hunting and gathering, yeah, it's not the ones that we have today. So achieving like a true Paleolithic diet just isn't actually possible. That's another video probably for another day. But essentially you're eliminating dairy, refined sugars, and all grains, and you're sticking to proteins, high quality meats, vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. And I kid you not, my life changed because of the paleo diet. Within a couple weeks, I was actually able to keep down protein and like actual real food, and my stomach was actually starting to settle, and I felt like things were looking up. The paleo diet I'm a little bit biased towards because quite literally it saved my life. It promoted gut healing because before I was eating standard American diet, gluten, dairy, a ton of processed food. So the paleo diet is an elimination diet, and what it did is it basically eliminated all the foods that were not working for my digestive system, compromising my immune system, things that I probably had intolerances and allergies to. And it was honestly a fantastic experience. And as a nutritional therapy practitioner, if you do have extreme digestive issues or health concerns, I would recommend some sort of elimination diet. Looking forward now, I would say that I'm still paleo-ish. Like, my life revolves around a paleo template, but I'm not so strict anymore because I really don't like to abide by diet rules. I know what foods work for my body, and if I want to eat rice or a little bit of like high quality grass-fed dairy, I don't care. I'm just going to do it, okay? Like, let me live my life. Thank you, goodbye. But at that point in my life, I needed a healing protocol. I needed something to eliminate the foods that were hurting me, and I needed to introduce actual nutrients, a vegetable. Hello. So I finally was starting to see food as medicine and food as fuel, and this was the biggest turning point probably in my whole life. I started to really wake up to the matrix of our food pyramid and our agricultural system, and I watched all the documentaries I could get my hands on, and I really feel like I started to wake up at this time in my life. So that was my experience on the paleo diet. Now we're going to get into if it fits your macros or counting macros. For a solid like 3 years, I was in and out of tracking macros. So let's talk about like why I decided to track macros after finding paleo and doing so well on it. So if you guys don't know, macros is a little bit different than counting calories. It is counting like your grams of proteins, fats, and carbs along with your calories as well throughout the day. The idea is that you need a certain ratio of protein, fats, and carbs in order to either build muscle, lose weight, lose fat, blah, blah, blah. Counting macros is essentially what you see basically every fitness and nutrition person on YouTube doing. This was definitely my introduction to developing a very odd relationship with food again. So I was starting to feel a lot better on paleo. My health was skyrocketing. I was seeing doctors and naturopaths and learning a lot more about living a holistic life. And then I thought, you know what? I'm feeling good. I want to work out. So I hired a personal trainer. So I go to work out with this personal trainer. At this point in my life, I probably weighed like 120 pounds and was like 5'6". Like I wasn't even fit. I was just skinny. And this trainer looks at me and says,
"You have the perfect body for competing.
Have you ever thought about competing?" And I was like, huh? The fuck? Competing in what? And so he proceeded to show me all these Instagram girls, and that's when I got into the world of like fitness, like the stuff that you see on YouTube, like the buff people, like fitness. And he told me that, you know, I have good potential, and he wanted to see what I could do, and that if I counted macros and stuck to a really good workout regimen, that I could really push my body to the limits and like be ripped and all this stuff. And looking back on it now, why the heck did I just like, poor Kara, like why did you get into that? Ultimately, I decided not to compete. My body was still like sick and recovering, and I wasn't ready for that. All my like chiropractors advised me not to do that. But I quickly became obsessed with, you know, like bodybuilding.com and macros and calculating my macros. And I even hired like an online coach to give me a specific macro ratio and supplements and a workout routine. And I must say, I was in fantastic shape. However, this is the thing that most fitness influencers that are promoting this type of bodybuilding lifestyle and macros don't talk about. I was probably 20 years old when I first started all of this, and you're very impressionable when you're at that age. And I was under the influence that everything needed to be perfect in order for it to work. My macros needed to be down to the gram. My exercise, I needed to work out 6 days a week. I needed to hit cardio 5 times a week. I couldn't be on there for any less than 30 minutes, good God. And if you weren't fasted for your cardio, that I needed to take the fat burners, the diuretics, the BCAAs. Looking back on it now, I was very stressed all the time. I had a huge lack of sleep because I had to wake up at 5 in the morning to do my fasted cardio, take a break, drink a protein shake, and then do my workout. I was constantly weighing my food, but then I started to develop opposite tendencies to restriction, and that was binging. It wasn't necessarily the diet's fault. It wasn't the if it fits your macros fault. I had my own insecurities, had a lot of extreme tendencies. Because I was so restrictive all the time, I started to develop extreme tendencies of binging, of a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, a lot of going out, because I thought that if I just hit my macros and I worked out, that I deserved it and that I should party and that I should have fun because I'm working so hard. So I developed some pretty bad habits from getting down the world of bodybuilding. And I know I'm not the only woman who's spoken out about this. There's tons of YouTube videos. Now, I talked about a lot of the issues. Let's briefly touch on why counting macros could be good for you. Counting macros could be good for you if you are a chronic undereater. And you'll know if you're a chronic undereater because you're probably cold a lot of the time. You're not very hungry, like you don't have that big of an appetite. You're constantly thinking about your food, and if you've eaten too much food, counting your macros can make sure that you're on track and that you're eating enough. It could also be good just to like journal everything that you ate in a day and then input it into like a MyFitnessPal or something, so you can see your ratios of carbs to fat to protein. Because a lot of women aren't getting enough protein in their diet, and a lot of it consists of processed refined carbohydrates. A lot of us are also not eating enough fat, or at least not enough high quality fat, so it can just be good to check your ratios. But if you're just trying to be a healthy individual that wants to have a good relationship with food, it's not really a route that I personally would advise people to go on. But of course, to each their own, do your own research. Okay, so then I ended up moving to Austin with my boyfriend in 2016. This brings me along to the third diet. Is this the third or the fourth? Fourth diet that we're gonna talk about today, which is the keto diet. And when we moved to Austin in 2016, I worked at a place called Picnic, which is a butter coffee trailer and now gluten-free restaurant in Austin, which literally will always hold the deepest, most sincerest place in my heart. And because I worked at this butter coffee truck, I got really into keto, because a lot of keto people were doing butter coffee. Now, nobody at work told me to do keto. Like, this was just my own research and experimentation. And I swear I found keto before this freaking thing blew up. But back in 2016, I found it through Leanne Vogel. I literally would sit there and watch her videos on keto just for hours and hours and hours on repeat. I would read all of the books. I really thought that it was the optimal human diet based off of all of the information that I had read and saw, because I was convinced that all of my health problems would just melt away from doing keto. I decided to give it a shot. There's a couple things that I want to keep in mind before I talk about what happened. Spoiler alert, it did not go well for me, but here's why. In the back of my head, even though I wanted to be better, I also always had this voice in the back of my head that told me that I needed to be skinnier or that I needed to be stronger, but mostly that I needed to be smaller. I hated the way that my body looked, and I was incredibly insecure. Also, when I moved away to Austin, I was away from my family in a foreign city, and I really didn't have very many friends, so I was feeling very lonely and insecure, and food was really the only thing that was familiar to me, that was comforting. It was something that I could control and that I could manage, and cooking and keeping track of my health was kind of like a hobby for me. So when I started keto, I was counting macros and doing keto at the same time because I wanted to make sure I was hitting my fat. But for some reason, I kept my calories so dang low, so low, like at 1450. And I was starving all the time. Keto flu was so real for me. It was ridiculous. Now, like, because I went through keto, I'm very fat adapted. I can just kind of like intuitively whip in and out of keto and not keto and whatever. I don't even care anymore. I'm very fat adapted now because of that experience. And if you're unfamiliar with keto, it is a low carb, moderate protein, high fat way of eating. However, now it's changed and evolved and looks very different for every single person. But that's the beauty of ways of eating. It should be different for every single person because everyone's body is completely different. I was once again slipping back into that obsessive mode where I was obsessed with hitting my calorie, my fat goals, my macro goals. Sometimes I would just chug MCT oil or like squirt MCT oil in my mouth when I was not hitting my fat goals for the day, which is actually psychotic. I've made a couple posts about this on my Instagram, so I will just put them up here and you can go look for that post if you want. Back during that time when I was keto, I was pretending like I was happy and like pretending like I was good because I lost a lot of weight and I was very skinny. And for once I was like kind of happy with how my body looked. I was super exhausted. I remember that my eyes were just chronically on fire, like chronically burning. I still don't know why. Yes, I got in my electrolytes, like keto, please don't come for me. I did everything in the book. It just wasn't the right diet at that point in time, and I honestly just wasn't eating enough. So that was my personal experience on the keto diet back in 2016. I have since then done the keto diet for therapeutic purposes, but I want to emphasize that the reason that I felt better doing it later on in my life a couple years later is because I addressed my poor relationship with food and my poor relationship with my body. I looked at keto and I thought, how can I do this out of respect for my body, out of wanting to heal, out of wanting to feel better, and not because I hated myself and I wanted to lose weight. And in return, I just ate more food in general and I felt so much better. So if you are thinking about trying a ketogenic diet, I really urge you as a woman to make sure that you're not starving yourself and that you're eating enough food and that you look to resources that really help you embrace accepting and loving yourself. Look for good role models that set you up to be the person that you want to be. But I do think that keto is actually a very good therapeutic diet, especially for people that struggle with blood sugar issues and some people that struggle with digestive issues. It's not good for everyone with digestive issues, but personally it was good for me because it lessened my fiber. Keto can be a good therapeutic approach for some, however, I really don't think it's right for everyone. Okay, and then right after I got off of the keto train, I basically had a mid-20s crisis, and I seem to have these mid-20s crisis like all the time, so I guess nothing new. I had developed a very bad relationship with food at this point. I started to binge, and I don't know if I'm gonna get demonetized for, you know, saying this, but you know what you do after you binge, yeah. It was just kind of a dark place in my life. I had to change and I had to learn to love myself and strengthen my relationship with food. I spent the next year or so really working on myself, and if you are struggling with something like this, I read an incredible book called Brain Over Binge, and that really propelled me again down this path of self-help. But at that point in my life, I was so sick and I was mentally really struggling with food in my body and I didn't know what to do. So I spent the next year and a half really repairing that relationship with myself and with food. And if you are struggling with that or anything close to that, I would really recommend that you reach out to somebody, because I know what that's like, and all you wish for is normalcy at that point, and you wonder, like, will things ever go back to normal for me? Will I ever not think about how many freaking grams of fat are in a tablespoon of olive oil ever again? Will I ever be able to just sit down and eat whatever is in front of me without wondering what that will either do to my body or how many calories are in that? If that is you, reach out to somebody. The comments and my email are always open as well. I was feeling like a brand new person after this year and a half, absolute brand new. And then I did something really freaking stupid. Then I did something so stupid. And I did medical medium. So now here we are on diet number 5 or 6, I'm not sure. If you're not familiar with medical medium, he is a man obviously, who claims that a spirit talks to him and tells him about people's health issues and like what is good to eat and all of this stuff. And he's written like 4 books. Go figure. But I found his first book back in 2017 and I was feeling pretty good about myself and my relationship with food was really good, but my health was not good. When a friend told me that this really helped her, I decided to read the book and give it a shot. I read that book and I felt like that dude got me. Like that dude went in my head, saw all the problems that I was dealing with, and then was like, yep, we just wrote this book for you. But basically, he thinks that animal products are feeding viruses in our bodies and keeping us chronically sick, and a lot of other things, not just animal products. He has at the end of this book this 30-day cleanse, and basically the 30-day cleanse is raw vegan. Like that's what it is. It's very low fat, very low protein, like barely any, and it's raw vegan. Giant smoothies in the morning, salad, endless amounts of fruit, and I was so compelled, I'm easily convinced obviously, that I decided to do this for some reason. I was actually going through nutrition school at this time and something within me said, don't do this, like you know that this isn't good, like don't do it. While I was going through it, I almost felt brainwashed, like it was almost like placebo effect. I felt like it was going to work and then in turn I felt like I was making up that it was working, and like I was just so convinced that it was working. And it was really good food, don't get me wrong, like raw vegan food can be very good. But by the end of the whole medical medium 30-day cleanse, I was very cold, just like freezing. I remember being at work and like I work at a coffee bar. Like it's not cold in a coffee bar. You're moving around, you're around hot liquids. And I would have to wear a jacket all the time because I was just freezing. I was constipated and bloated 24/7 because I just could not digest that amount of fiber. Dear God, like my body could not digest that. I'm all for that if you can digest plants, like please eat more vegetables and fruit. I think that's actually really good for the body, and I'm not in the camp that like vegetables and fruit are evil. And so I eventually transitioned out into more like cooked vegan. So I started eating cooked vegetables, more fat, more olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocado, but I was still convinced, thanks to medical medium, that animal food was like feeding the viruses and bacterial infection inside of my body. But the coldness never went away, the tiredness never went away, the digestion issues never went away. So I just decided screw it, and I transitioned back into more of a paleo template. While I think that those types of things can benefit a lot of people, it wasn't the right thing for me. If you get constipated easily or bloated easily off of tons of fruit and vegetables, just don't. Literally just don't. And during this time I was very sick, I was very puffy, I was extremely inflamed, and my health actually got worse. Emotionally, I was a mess. It was not good. Once again, this point here, that it's not the diet's fault that I was so sick, so inflamed, so emotionally jacked up. It was the fact that I was like seeking salvation in these diets, when really I should have just been listening to either A, a professional, and B, my own intuitive wisdom about what was right for me. I constantly ignored my own intuitive wisdom, and I just did what everyone else told me was gonna work. Well, I need a break. This is a lot. I didn't even realize like how much this was gonna be. Like I've recorded like 45 minutes of footage so far. No, like 50. Okay, we're gonna power through. And that brings me to the last diet, which is carnivore. If you want to learn more about my carnivore diet experiment, I would just go ahead and watch the video that I'll have linked down below for you guys. Chances are if you're on my channel, you've probably already watched it and that's how you found me. But I talked extensively in my carnivore video, which by the way, I did that towards the end of 2019, mid to end of 2019. I did this diet like purely because I wanted to know, could this help me feel better? From like 2017 on, none of the diets that I tried were about weight loss, and I wanted to start trusting myself again. So then I got really interested in the carnivore diet though, and I decided to just do it for 30 days. And you can look at that video down below if you want to hear about my results, but long story short, it was a really good time. It actually really improved a lot of my digestive issues, but I found it to be too strict, so I decided to add my foods back in, and now I'm kind of back at the same diet that I was before carnivore, which is the eat whatever I feel like intuitively diet. And I've got to say, the biggest lesson that I've learned over these past 7 years, like I've done all of these over the past 7 years of my life, is that you know more than you give yourself credit for. We think that somebody else is going to give us all of the answers on what we should eat. Really, your gut knows what you need to do, and it may just be a small little step. It may just be eat more vegetables. It may just be go for a walk. It may just be go to the gym and do something. But intuitively, I think you can feel that nudge of what you need to do. And then if you need anything further, please hire an FMD or a professional, but don't like go on YouTube thinking that you can just find all of the answers, because you probably can't, and it'll end up getting you in more trouble than you expect. So I'm really glad if you stuck around this long that you did. Thank you for listening. This was basically my whole entire life story. I really hope that if you're watching this and you see yourself in my journey at all, that you learn something, and just know that there is intuitive wisdom inside of you that wants the best for you and that knows exactly what you should do. And of course, seek professional medical advice if you need it. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna go take a nap, and I'll see y'all next week. Thanks, be sure to subscribe to my channel. All right, see y'all later, bye.